Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Currency podcast, where we help creators make an income while making an impact. Today, we have a very special guest. He has been a day one since high school, literally known him. How has it been like since sophomore year for you in high school? So,
No, dude, I've known you since you were like 13, man.
oh yeah, that
It's
was
been
a middle school. Middle
a
school,
long
that's what
journey.
it was.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Very dear friend of mine, incredible photographer. He's absolutely killing it in that space. He's been doing some work in the NFT and Ethereum, I believe, spaces as
Yeah, so
well.
the NFT and crypto space, kind of last year, it's kind of slowed down a bit just due to the market crash. But yeah, we had fun with that. Made some
Yeah,
money. So
incredible. Like he's got tons of credits. It's my man, Zachariah Rock. Welcome on, man.
appreciate you, man. Means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How,
first podcast introduction. So blessed. Blessed that it's with you, man.
hell yeah. I wouldn't want it to be with anybody else. Um, how you been? Things been going well?
Yeah, it's just been steady work and editing photos. That's the grind. We're kind of taking a bit of a hiatus from social media right now. So you've probably noticed I'm not like liking as much stuff. I'm not like,
Okay.
supporting, commenting. It's just mental health reasons, other factors too. Just, find myself wasting too much time scrolling on my phone. But eventually we're gonna flip it around, get some content produced and just work on some photos.
Absolutely. I mean, hiatuses are good for that. I mean,
Yeah.
mental health should always come first. And
Oh yeah. You
that
gotta do
goes
it for
for,
yourself, man.
yeah. I mean, that's for everybody else out there. Like if social media is just taking a toll on you, just make sure to give yourself a minute and catch your breath. But yeah, actually the first question I wanted to ask you, actually came from a really interesting concept that I learned in my physics of sound class that I'm
Okay.
taking this term. He said something like the microphone captures time in a space, but a camera captures space in a certain amount, like in a certain point in time.
Oh yeah.
I thought
Oh yeah.
was very interesting. And to that point, when it comes to storytelling, which is like something you've said you try to do with your photography, when I hear storytelling, I hear like more audio because that's like the telling part is, yeah. So, how do you tell stories through your photos visually at just one moment in time?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. So I think a lot of it, we've talked about this before, is the reason you create art. Some people create art extrinsically. I'm big on the whole intrinsic factor. Like I create art for myself. So when I talk about, like, for instance, like it's big right now on Twitter, creating like a set of photos. They're like four, three, however many. You kind of use that as like a baseline. Okay,
Mm,
what I'm going to merge these four photos together. How am I going to make them kind of be like scenes in a movie or whatnot? How are we going to merge that to look fantastic on top of what am I trying to convey? What emotion is important here? So, probably one of my favorite sets, which never gets any love, it's called The Allure of Grief. A big reason behind that is because it was, how do I put it? It's like everybody struggles with grief and certain emotions. Everybody knows that emotion. We have different experiences to get us to a point where that emotion is conveyed properly. But with The Allure of Grief, it was like I just barely lost both my grandmothers. I was going through a rough time pretty hard this year. And so I was like, I want to convey this. I want to use color psychology to make someone feel a specific way. So we created a color palette of, it was purples, convey like this mystery behind this feeling. And then there was like tints of blue, because blue a lot of times is associated with sadness, grief, however it comes across. But it's almost the composition, like your leading lines. What are you leading into? What are you trying to say? Who's leading the story? Who's guiding the story? So there's a lot of different factors, and it's really hard to put into words.
mm. So it's like you're putting, it's almost like a journal, like a journalism aspect to it. Like
Oh
you're
yeah.
not necessarily journalism is like going out and writing a story for a paper, but like journaling and documenting your own experiences through it.
So I kind of don't like when I talk about storytelling, it's a subjective art in photography, at least. People who have won awards, they always have some sort of, people who win street photography awards. There's just a guy, you know, or a girl or a pet or something like that, like something that's telling a story. And I think the part of storytelling that we love is that it transports us from one place to another. So it's just a matter of how do we convey that teleportation in people's minds? Because a good storyteller will just take us somewhere, will make us forget everyday life, like the mundane of everyday life, essentially. So with photography, that's kind of where I aim. It's like, how do I get to a point where I can transport people around me to what I saw, and creating otherworldly stuff, like, the dream state, because everybody dreams, creating that dream state and throwing us into like this different realm with my photography. And I get criticized a lot. A lot of people who are a little bit older, they've been doing photography for like, I don't know, like 15, 20 years, like my whole lifetime, pretty much. They're like, oh, well, I don't edit my photos. It's like, okay, like you want an award? So I feel like people always try to take away from what I do, especially like older photographers, just due to the fact that I edit my photos so heavily. But it's like, there's a purpose behind it. I've been critiqued on, hey, like you're underexposing this. It's like, well, that underexpose, it's not like I'm just like a rookie. It's like I purposely underexposed that because those shadows and that depth really tells more of it's a higher contrast. It's like, well, there's something going on here, like you can create a lot of like horror themes from high contrast or like just other concepts essentially. But I find that back to the original point of storytelling, it's not really up to you to decide what the viewer sees, essentially. Like people love movies who have like kind of an endless loop. It's like you get to make up your own ending, like what had happened. You leave them on an edge. Like it's such a classic movie. So I find that I don't know, we're all subjective when it comes to art. Like some people hate things and then, some people love it. So it's just like, you just do things for you because like, what's the alternative, Sitting there and being like, oh, like nobody's going to like my photos. Nobody's going to get what I'm trying to convey in this photo set. It's like, well, do you get it? Okay, fair enough. So that's like, it's the intrinsic purpose behind all of it.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. You said something interesting about, because I've never heard of this before, of like how certain elements, like certain effects make like totally change the vibe. Like the horror, like overexposure causes more horror. I've never even heard that
Or
before.
underexposure, yeah, essentially.
Underexposure.
Well, a lot of things, photography and cinematography, like they're very two different things. So with photography, it's just like it's so I don't know, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's like what people are doing, it's creating a lot of movement in the space where people are like idolizing these photographers, and if you go on Twitter, it's kind of where I would say a lot of great photographers have migrated. Instagram became a video, pretty much rivaling TikTok. All this great art is on Twitter right now. Like it's insane, man, and it's like being mutuals with incredible artists is just an incredible feeling. I said incredible like a couple of times there, but so someone who influences my work and someone I advise everyone to go look into, just breathe through all of their work, like take it slow, try to get some inspiration. And I love the concept of how other like mediums of art can influence, like, music can influence photographers, or like photographers can influence musicians, or like painters can get this energy, this like, whoa, like look at this wave of inspiration that comes on through, and they're just like, I feel it, I'm going to capture it, and so it's like, it's such a great thing that we can do to help other artists. So that's why I'm like, oh, okay, I love publishing my work, I love putting my photos out there. But then like, because it's like a catch-22, like that intrinsic nature of, hey, I'm doing this for me, I want to inspire other people to create, that's an incredible feeling when someone's like, hey, like you inspired me, like I look up to you. Like I've had that happen, and it's just like, whew, like that's like why we're here on this earth, man. That's just my opinion. But for the most part, like you get to a point where that, because you want to inspire so much, and if you're like very outgoing in the sense of like you want to see what other people think of your art, get critiqued that way, eventually like you become your worst critic. And that's kind of like the catch-22, where it's like, yeah, I haven't posted in a while. I haven't been trying to create. I've been focusing on, the money making aspect of it, because struggling artist, it's a huge thing. So I'm my new focus for like the past 4 months, 5 months has been love. I love the emotion of love. I'm currently in love myself. Like I have a beautiful girlfriend, we've been together for almost 2 years. So I want to help people capture those special moments in life, because that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I'm kind of going all over the place. If you want to like narrow this down a little bit more.
No, I was just saying that makes sense that you're so on the like so focused on the emotion of love
Yeah.
because you've been shooting a lot of wedding photography.
Yes. Yeah. Elopements. Weddings, like big weddings, not so much. I'm not a fan of that. I've turned a couple of those away. Just
Uh-huh.
like, no. I like I don't know. I feel like you can't connect with a lot of people on that scale. So I did a small
Mm.
wedding. That was like I did a small wedding in August, and that was fantastic. Everybody there was so kind. People were just kind of, I don't know, they're not from the hometown. I went to
Yeah.
another state, went to another city, went and shot this in a beautiful location. And it's like the gratitude on people's faces when you can just be yourself and make them feel comfortable with having their photos taken and making them feel beautiful. It's an important aspect. And you're telling their story. It's like, this is the story of how we got married. Here's all the family members we had here. And it's fun. Recently in October, I had my probably one of my best photo shoots I've ever done. And that was a profound experience because it was with these two couples, or these two people, this couple. And they were a beautiful couple. You could clearly tell they were in love. And it was like an inspiration for me and my own, partner. It was just a matter of, hey, like they just inspired us. Like they're so in love, and you can just tell this photo shoot was easy. The photos turned out beautifully, and they were incredible people. When you kind of have similar values, the photos end up just working out. And I also find I've done a lot of free work in the past where there's not like the promise of like doing and delivering great work. So when that is kind of like out of the way, when money is like not really an object, it's like you just don't care about it. You can create some great work. But I've talked to a lot of photographers about this. They're like, yeah, the moment I'm getting paid for something, like the nerves are on. It's like you can't mess up. In reality, you can't mess up. Those mistakes are going to teach you a lot more. I've had some bad photo shoots, had some bad family portraits, like just people completely upset with the work I'm doing, like insults thrown, like, hey, like you didn't even edit these photos. It's like, lady, like I spent a few hours on these, it's like there wasn't that many to begin with. So you
Mm.
can't really please everyone. And that kind of, it's an important rule and lesson to have in life. And in art, you got to apply it 1,000 times over. But yeah, like I kind of skipped over one thing everyone should go see if they like the horror or just new age photography, essentially, is they should go look up Briscoe Park on Twitter or Instagram. One of those. Fantastic artist. Like seriously, one of my biggest inspirations in life. I see you writing that down.
Yeah. I'm gonna write that down. What's it? How do you spell it?
Briscoe, Briscoe Park.
Briscoe.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Park.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
it's just like this photographer. He's probably got over like 200,000 followers on Twitter or something like that. And I've been following him for such a long time, dude. And he's just like, he influences so much of my work. But I think you get influences from everywhere. Like I get
Mm.
influenced by my mom. My mom will go out and shoot photography. And I'm like, holy crap, mom! Like you don't even have like a DSLR or anything like this. You just like shooting photos with your phone. And so I'm grateful for my mama for giving me that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny you say that because my mom's been doing that too, like just taking pictures of flowers. I'm like, damn, this is pretty good.
Okay, mom, I'm gonna make a
Yeah,
beat. Like just
yeah.
going away, man. Yeah,
that
for
was that
sure.
was actually one thing I wanted to talk to you about. You mentioned something about how photography influences art, or how art just is very fluid in terms of medium, like how that
Yeah.
inspiration just kind of flows from one to the other. And it got me thinking about album covers. And so I'm curious, what are like some of your favorite album covers, looking at it from like a photographer's point of view?
Dude, that is such a loaded question that I would have to like
You'd have to look at, okay.
look at, for sure. It's one of those things. Um, do you remember I'm trying to think. Gosh, I was not expecting that. That's a great question. You just like hit me with that. Um, Graduation by Kanye West.
Okay.
From a photographer's perspective, I mean, and even just like a graphic designer in general, like I'm gonna bring this up right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that album cover, it's just like insanity, you know. But
Mhm.
like it kind of led to like telling the story of like Kanye is gonna blast off. He's gonna, you know, just become this crazy like icon in our, you know, in hip hop culture. So yeah, that's always been one that's like stood out to me for sure. It's just like, what even is that? And then have you listened to Nothing Was the Same by Drake? That it's like a 2013 album.
I don't think I've listened to that one actually.
I think that the album cover on that is just like iconic. It's just like a younger version of Drake and then an older version of Drake. And it's like one's a normal copy and then one's like a deluxe version. And
Oh.
so it's just like it's telling a story essentially. So there's a lot more, but that was Nothing Was the Same was probably like one of the biggest album covers that really was like, oh, that's storytelling. But there's so many out there and there's so many good ones. But I think
Mhm.
being a photographer, I've actually made a couple album covers myself. I've had people ask me if they can use my photos for album covers. It's hard. Like that's a lot harder than doing like, you know, wedding elopements and stuff because you're trying to capture the essence of what the song is about. But at the same
Mm.
time, it's like you want to hook someone in because people usually don't listen to music. Most people aren't like incredibly music oriented. They're like, they want to be hooked in by the album art.
Mm.
Do you believe in that? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Um, I mean, the album art definitely sets the tone for like the whole album for sure. Like I couldn't like say Good Kid Mad City by
Mm-hmm.
Kendrick. I
Oh yeah,
couldn't see any other like I couldn't see it having any other album art than just like that van with the like the writing on it. Like just the sheer rawness of it and just I'm thinking about Backseat Freestyle and how it's just like the production's just like so all over the place, but it's still so polished.
still on par with the album cover though. You know,
Yeah, it's like so it's definitely you could argue that that photo is the hook for the rest of the album, like you were saying.
yeah, absolutely. Um, Damn, Damn is very iconic as well.
Mm,
Like that album cover, it's just kind of like it's a little. It that goes back to like the under. There's a lot of shadows on his face. I'm looking at it right now. It's just very bold, you know, like in that red.
mm,
Damn. Period.
yeah.
I mean, it's simple. You go okay. I find that you have to be. You have to have like a objective when creating an album cover. Like, what are you trying to convey? You know. And so, like we using color psychology, you can convey like kind of the vibe of the album through colors. I mean, that's
Mm,
always what it boils down to in storytelling. Like I think a lot of people they use color wrong and like people you know what I'm talking about. Like people who are starting out, like the SoundCloud rappers or people who are like
mhm,
making indie music. Like they're using the wrong, you know, color tonal range to create this. It's almost just like a an energy that is like so it's like a how do I put it? It's creating like an off feeling of the song. Like that's not what I expected it to sound like at all. And that's like a
mm,
tool. So you can use that to like trip people out and like maybe potentially promote your album work. But I always find that like st- simple is better. Like less is more. You know, like if it's just like a black background with like one logo or a face or something like that. And I've done a lot of album work and I've had a lot of bad album work, but I've also had some ones where I'm like, whoo, you know, like that. Okay, like that's the best feeling is when you're hyped up about it. It's important, dude. But I haven't done some album work in quite some time, man. Like it's probably been over a year.
wow.
Yeah.
Damn. So if you had a an artist come to you and say, okay, I have how should I choose my colors based on what it sounds like? Like say it's a like a boom bap artist and they're wanting to use like a lot of old school influences. What sort of I'm trying to think how to ask this question.
I think I already know how to answer it.
Yeah, yeah, take a hit.
Black and white probably. If they're like a boom bap artist, I feel like people associate like classics with black and white. Like black and white films being classic, and so you have to
Okay.
kind of look at film. So I know people who are into the EDM scene. Like that's kind of I like EDM a lot. It's not like my favorite, but I've been listening to it quite a bit. They use they use 3D blended, like 3D modeled stuff, like usually from Blender, and they have these incredible scenes with really bold and vibrant colors because that's kind of what the music is like. And I've heard some people talk about how they can like see the color of a song in their head, or like they can just like they have like a weird connection with the song. They kind of imagine it to look a specific way or feel it like a specific way. So I'm not okay. As someone, I don't really listen to a lot of music. I'll be completely honest with you. I spend a lot of time, maybe podcasts, maybe just like, being alone with my thoughts. But then like every once in a while, it's like, okay, it's time for some music. It changes how your whole day can progress. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, dude, I have to go every single day, listen to music all day. Like if I didn't, I'd go insane. Like music's an incredible thing. I have some family. My older brother's a musician. He's a great, drum and bass DJ back in Liverpool. But it's just a matter of, for me, not so much, but I love making album art and then listening to the music while looking at the art that I've created. So I would say black and white.
Black and white.
Someone like that. I mean, black and white are like a monochromatic scheme where there's just one color basis.
Okay. Would you say that
conveys message?
That's probably like a pretty solid go-to for most album art? Because now that you're saying that, I'm starting to I'm starting to see it like in a lot of album covers. Like there's definitely one solid color, and then the rest of it is like complementing it. So
yeah, I mean, then when I say monochromatic, I'm usually just stating like one color, like one tonal range. So for the most part, I would probably, it's hard, man. Like it always just comes down to whether or not you as the artist like it and believe it's acceptable and the client's going to like it. And then once the client sees it, it's like, do they like it? Okay, like what don't they like about it? Okay, like how do they want to change it? But photographers do a really good job at creating album covers. Like I'm trying to remember, somebody I know on Twitter, Suicide Boys pretty much paid them like just a ton of money to use one of their photos. Wow. And so that happens with big photographers. It's like, well, we don't want anything, just throw some text over it, or don't even throw some text over it, just take it as it is. That's the song, that's the single, and so it just depends. It depends on like what they're trying to convey and if they just resonate with it. That's always what it's really simple. It's not, I don't think it's really as complicated as your brain's trying to make it, because I know you're like, how do we do it here? Eventually art just comes down to, do you like the art? Good. Okay, here it is, we're going to use it. It's like, you just know it's an intuitive thing for sure. It's kind of like that with music too,
Yeah, it really.
Yeah, you're making beats and you're like, this is awful.
Yeah, that goes back to what you were saying about you have to make the awful ones to make the good ones.
It's just habit,
but
it's just a habitual formation, man.
That's a really good point, though. I just actually had an idea for like an artist, if they're trying to find inspiration for a song, just go look at some really good photography, or Zachariah's photography for that matter. Go check it out.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man.
And then
people just resonate with different stuff. That's always what it is. It's like you, for instance, like, people who resonate with your boom bap, like your classic feel of, 90s hip hop. That's not going to be everyone. There's a lot of people who listen to awful rap nowadays and they're like, oh, that's just old man stuff, but then like, that's the foundation, like foundation always kind of trumps a lot of the newer stuff, in my opinion. And it's the same with photography. Like simple is better, less is more, and I kind of live by that, but in the past it's been a little difficult for sure. Like you want to do extraordinary stuff because you see other people doing this super complex work, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, that didn't really turn out how I wanted it to be. Like you're just like shaking your head.
Yeah, that's true. Study the fundamentals. It was like when we were playing soccer. Like, how long did they make us dribble before we even did anything?
Too long.
Yeah, that was wild. Actually, this next question, I wanted to talk to you kind of about high school, and how it's kind of about high school and how it also relates to your photography. So
Okay.
so you've, from what, like, just from what I've seen, you changed since high school in like the best way. Like, it's incredible just seeing you grow and what you're
You
doing
think?
now. Yeah.
Dude, that's great. That's a
Um,
compliment and a half, man.
so with that, you said storytelling is about like transportating like somebody to another place. So
Yeah,
could,
transporting someone, just completely different world.
if is there a photo that exists, or if there was a photo that exists that illustrates how, like, the transformation of you from high school to where you are now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, dude, that's a Jesus, man. Like you really are a podcast host nowadays. You got loading up these questions, hit me in the face with it. Um, I would probably say it always goes back to one photo for me. It's probably one of my favorite photos just because it was like a restaurant. You remember Milt's Stop and Eat
Oh
kind of here
yeah,
in Moab?
the
So you
best.
know that photo of mine? I don't know if you've seen it before. It's
Yep,
called First Stop in Purgatory.
that was the
When I
one of
took
them.
that photo, that
Yeah.
was like the first day I got my camera, my brand new camera. That kind of led me down this huge path because it's like I had the equipment, I had the mindset. Like, dude, I was hungry. I went for it. And that changed my life, like completely. Like taking that photo, editing it, and just being so passionate. Like that first night of capturing that photo, I think I was about, how old was I? I think I was 21. So it was like maybe almost a year, year and a half. It was like March 2021. And
Wow.
like 2021 was a huge year for me, dude. Like it was a lot of changes, a lot of uncertainty, but at the same time, like I found what I want to do with the rest of my life and I made a lot of money off of it. So like everybody wants that, Nobody wants to just like be stagnant and not grow. So that was a huge growth year for me. That first day of buying that camera, getting it shipped, having it like come out, like just all the whole process was incredible. It
Mm.
made me be like, holy crap, this is like an investment in myself. It's like, I think between it all, it was like $3,500 with all the equipment I had bought, the lenses,
Wow.
just the camera itself. And it was like, this is a huge accountability thing, man. Like, you want to be a photographer, like, you're going to drop some money on it. So it's either $3,500 just sitting in your closet, you're not using it, or you're actively using it. And then it's like, it's almost like I'm being blessed completely. It's like, the more I use it, the more I get blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for everybody who has a talent, that's kind of the way it is. It's like you're just not going to use the pencils you use as an artist, as like an illustrator. You're just like going to
Yeah.
complain, sit there. So gratitude is huge. I'm big on gratitude. I always have been. It's gotten to a point where that whole experience with that one photo, it pushed me because it's like, wow, this is what I can create. Like there's like this untapped creative potential inside of me. The rest of the year, it was like such a habitual formation. I grew on Twitter. I made a lot of great friends. And that habitual formation really, it sent me over the edge. All I could think about was taking photos. All I could think about was the next photo set that I'm going to create. What stories am I going to tell? I got like ecstatic over it. Like
Yeah.
one of those. I was just like crazy about it. And you almost have to be crazy about the process in order for you to create good art. You have to be obsessed because it's kind of like just a wave, and sometimes you get that creative inspiration. But like the moment it's a habit, the moment it becomes like you're gonna get so much better at creating, you're gonna feel more comfortable. You're not gonna have imposter syndrome as much. So it's a whole process.
Mm. That's so true. Just the obsession is just like, man, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I think that's a pretty good note to leave off of this podcast. We're running out of time, but
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I
Be
have one
obsessed over your art.
end of the day, man. That's all that's all what it's about. This last question actually I want to ask is, what is your top, you said you don't listen to a whole lot of music. Do you listen to hip hop as much
Not a
anymore?
lot.
Not a whole lot.
Uh I don't know, dude. It depends. It's more like I listen to a lot of indie music now, EDM, but like I still
EDM.
listen to hip hop for sure.
Okay.
I know this is
Um,
a hip hop podcast, so like,
yeah. I'll extend this to like other musicians then. Who would you say are your top 5 storytelling artists in music?
number one for me, I have Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
Like, did love Led Zeppelin. You know, I love a lot of the, you know, a lot of rock and stuff, but it's really hard, dude. Uh, I would definitely say Kendrick Lamar up there for sure. Um, dude, this is such a complex. This is like me asking you who your favorite authors are. You know,
Oh
remember when
yeah.
I did that? Let me
Yep.
see. You put me on the spot, dude. I can't even think.
We'll do top 3 if that works better.
Tupac. I'll throw
Tupac.
Tupac in there, dude.
Okay.
He's got a lot of good stuff that like I can actually resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
No order, or is this order? You doing an order?
Oh
This is no
no,
order,
like
right?
no order. I'm just just
Yeah.
counting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kanye probably. I've
Kanye.
listened to a lot of Kanye in my life. Spent a lot of time doing that, and then dude, you're kicking my ass with this. Have you ever listened to Eden?
Eden?
Do you know who Eden is?
I can't say I do. Is that your 5th?
Okay, that would probably be my fifth. Yeah.
Your 5th? Okay.
Yeah.
Is he EDM or what is he?
No, he's it's like hyper pop, kind of on that
Oh, okay.
spectrum. Yeah, over there, it's like alternative music. I'd
Yeah.
probably say that, but it'd probably change depending on which day you told me.
Mm-hmm.
But with the hip hop artists, definitely them.
Hell yeah. Cool. Thank you, man, so much for coming on. It was great
Of
seeing you
course,
again.
bro.
And I will.
Yeah, sorry that took so long. It was just a process for sure.
No, it's all good. Technical difficulties always happen in the beginning. It's
It
all
does,
good.
dude.
Um,
You're
but
looking good though, man. Like more health to you, bro.
thank you. You as well. You as well.
Yes, sir, bro.
Shout out to you and yours and everything.
Of course, man.
I also want to send this podcast to you on cassette just so you have a physical copy. That's how I'm trying to like make this podcast a little different than
Really,
every other one. So
bro.
yeah.
I love
You'll
that, man. That's a nice touch, man. Good thinking.
yeah,
Those marketing skills are really coming in handy.
I'm just trying to make it hip hop, bro. You know. But
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will leave all of his links in the description, everything that we talked about, the Briscoe Park dude. And you're just on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok?
Yeah, let's say that for sure. Yeah, for the most
Okay,
part.
cool. I'll leave all 3 of those down below then. So, but yeah, go check out his photography. Incredible photographer. Thanks again for watching, and you guys have a
Subscribe to
great
Alex.
yes, please do. But yeah, have a great rest of your day, guys. Peace.
Peace.